Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am here with the next update for my project Level Up. This is a project, if you're new to my channel or to this project in general, this is a project that I created 2.5 years ago now, I believe, where I wanted to have a way to use my palettes more as a whole, but also continue hitting pan on the palettes that I have in my collection. So I created this project where you do use the palette as a whole because you do have a usage goal in this project, but you also do need to hit pan. So how it works is you have a level, so each palette you work on is a different level. Currently I'm on level 5, and that means that for this palette I have to hit 5 pans, so that's the pan element, and also used every single shade 5 times, which is the usage element. So I really have been enjoying this project, and I love seeing you guys take it on board as well. So I'm going to go through the palette that I'm working on right now. So the palette that I do have rolled in for level 5 is my Love Nose palette from Beauty Bay. This is one I've been working on now for 2 months, so it does take a little bit longer, of course, to complete level 5, especially with this palette because it does have 20 shades in it. So having a usage goal of 5 of all of those 20 shades is a lot of work. But honestly, I've been absolutely loving this palette. So yeah, I'm excited to show you where it stands today. But before I jump into the project, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So I'm going to start by inserting the footage of what this palette has been looking like. So you can see already when I introduced this palette 2 months ago, I did have some decent use on it. I had pan on a lot of the shimmers. None of the mattes had pans though. I feel like I reach more general for shimmer shades, and I feel like they're easier to pan on as well, so that's probably why. But yeah, that is what it looked like at the first update. It is a really stunning palette. After 1 month of use, which is the last update, this is what the palette looked like at that point. You can see that I had already hit pan on 3 out of the 5 shades that I needed to pan on. And of course, I already had some good usage too. So yeah, that is what the palette looked like. Since that point, I have continued using this palette to try to hit those 2 remaining pans and also finish up my usage goal. And this is what the palette looks like today. So there is some obvious changes. Hopefully you can see some of that. Yeah, we'll talk you through, of course, each shade in order in a minute, but this is the overview. You can see what the palette looks like, and again, the difference from last month. So yes, that is what the palette looks like. This is it right here. I'm also going to have the footage up here, the pictures right here, so you can see it because it's such a big palette. I don't want to hold it up constantly, but you can see again the difference, but I'm going to talk you through, of course, the numbers. So first up in the palette, we have the shade Corset, which is actually one of my focus shades. I have not hit pan on it yet though, but I'm really trying. And you might already be able to see that I only hit 1 more additional pan in the past month, which means that I'm standing at 4 pans at the moment. This is the last shadow that I want to hit pan on, so this is going to be the last goal that I have to hit pan on. And in the first month, I reached for the shadow 3 times, and I have reached for it 7 additional times in the past month, for a total of 10. And again, I do have a really good dip in the shadow, but no pan yet. Next to that, we have the shade Cotton though, which is one that I have actually been able to hit pan on. This is the first pan that I have in a matte shade in this palette, but it's also a really easy shade to reach for. This is just like a cream kind of blending out shade for me. I reached for this one 14 times in the first month it was in this project, and in the past month I reached for it an additional 7 times. It actually only took me 6 additional uses in the past month to hit pan though, so I have reached for it 1 additional time after hitting pan, for a total of 21 uses so far. Then next up we had a shade Chandelier, which I'm going to jump briefly over because I have not reached for it in the past month. I had 12 uses on the first month and no more in the past month, but it was a shade that I hit pan on in the first update. Then next to that we have 2 shades that I have used exactly the same. Actually I'm using both of them in the look today on my inner kind of part of my crease, and that is the shade Angel and Cheeks. And in the first month they were in the project, I reached for them 1 time, and I have reached for them 1 additional time each, for a total of 2 uses on both these shades in the project so far. So I do have 3 more uses to each on these shades in order to hit my goal. So again, not quite there with my usage goals, but that's fine because I knew that this palette is going to roll over for our 3rd month when I wasn't getting close to hitting pan and corset. So I'm fine with the usage for now, and I'm sure I will complete that the next month. Moving on to the second row, we're starting off with the shade Mahogany, which is one that I have now reached my usage goal on. This one I reached for 2 times in the first month it was in the project, and 3 additional times in the past month for a total of 5, so that one is complete. And then next to that we have another shade that I hit pan on in the first month. I reached for it 7 times to hit pan on it, and I have not reached for it since, so no uses in the past month. Next to that we have this really light purple shade, which is called Soap, and this one I reached for twice in the first month it was in the project. And unfortunately, I haven't reached for it at all in the past month, so I still have 3 more uses to go on this shade. But again, similar to the other shades that I still have some uses left on, I'm not worried about it at all at the moment, so that's fine. However, next to that we have the shade Bellini, which is one of my favorite shades in this palette. It's a beautiful shimmer, and I already had pan on this one at the beginning of when I rolled this palette in. But I had reached for it one time in the first month, so I had 4 additional uses to go before I could hit my usage goal. And I'm happy to say that I have reached that in the past month. So I'm now standing at 5 total uses. Lastly, on the second row, we have the shade Flush, which is actually another one that I'm using in my look today. Again, that's the 3rd shade from this palette I'm using in this look, and it's the last shade as well. But I have reached for it that one time in the past month for a total of 3 so far in the project, so I have 2 more uses to go. Then if we move on to the 3rd row, we start off with the shade Pillow, which is another shimmer. And this is one that I also have reached my usage goal on this past month. I already had pan on it prior, but I used it twice in the first month this palette was in the project, and I reached for it 3 additional times this past month for a total of 5. So that one is complete. Then we have a long range of shades that I have not yet reached my usage goal, so let's go through them. Next up we have Lavender, which I reached for twice the first month and 1 additional times this past month for a total of 3, so 2 more uses there. And then next to that we have Princess, which I didn't use at all in the first month. However, I reached for it once this past month, so I still have 4 more uses to go. Same with the shade Handkerchief, which is another one I have 4 more uses left on. I reached for it once the first month and not at all in the past month, which is a bit of a shame, so 4 more uses there. And lastly, on the 3rd row, we also have the same exact thing, which is the shade Cupid. I reached for it once the first month and not at all in the past month, so 4 more uses to go. Not the best. I still have quite a lot of usage goal in this palette. Another thing I haven't mentioned, but I do believe one of the reasons why I have so much usage left in this palette is because I did travel in the month of August. I went to Sweden for a week and a half, but I probably lost like 2 weeks of makeup wear that way. So obviously I didn't bring everything that I'm panning, and this is a palette that I did not bring with me. So about half of the month, almost, well, not quite, but about 2 weeks out of the month, I didn't really have this palette at all nearby. So I think that's one of the reasons why I don't have more progress than I do. But again, that's fine, and I only have that one shade left to pan on, and then the usage goals I'm sure I can get out pretty quickly. So I do think I can have this palette out maybe even halfway to next update, which would be great, but we'll see. I'm not going to take anything out, but no, I'm definitely going to have this one out next month. I'm sure by it, but yeah, let's continue with the shades. So let's move on to the last row. So we start off the last row with the shade Lilac, which is a matte, and that one I used twice the first month and 1 more time this past month for a total of 3, 2 more uses to go. Then we have the shade Spark, which is a really, really stunning shimmer shade, and this one I reached for twice the first month, but I actually wasn't able to reach for it at all. Well, I didn't reach for it at all in the past month, and I think because I haven't done too many purple looks, which is also one of the reasons why the second half of this palette is so neglected right now. So 3 more uses to go there. Again, I'm sure I can get that out soon though. One shade that I'm really close to now is the shade Glove, which is actually the last shade that I have not reached my usage goal on yet. And that is the deepest purple in the palette. I reached for it 3 times the first month I was working on this palette, and I have 1 more use on it this past month with 1 use to go. I almost debated doing a purple look today to try to get this one complete, but I just felt like doing a green and pink look is television, and I really like how it turned out. But yeah, this one I'll definitely have done very, very soon. Then for the last 2 shades in the palette, I have already completed those 2 last month. The shade Confetti is actually one that I hit pan on. I reached for it 9 times to hit pan on it, so that one is complete. And then the shade Ruby, I already completed my usage goal as well. The first month I reached for it 5 times in that month, and I didn't reach for it at all in the past month. So that is where I'm standing with the palette. So looking at it, I still have a little bit of usage left in this palette for sure. I of course am gonna try to pan on the shade where you can see again the dip in that pan, and I do think I can hit pan on that one, hopefully in not too long. And then the shades that I have usage goals left on is this shade here. I have 3 more uses, 3 more uses, and then the rest of the top row is done. For the second row, I have this shade here. I have 3 more uses there, and then I have this shade with 2 more uses, and that is the second row. For the third row, I have 2 more uses on Lavender. I have 4 more uses on Princess, 4 more uses on Handkerchief, and 4 more uses on Cupid. So 4 more uses on all 3 of those. Then for the last row, we have this shade Lilac, which I have 2 more uses on, Spark, 3 uses, and lastly glove, one more use. And that is all of the usage I have left. And then of course I do have to hit that one more pan, which is again going to be in that shade. So that is where I'm standing with this palette. I do still have quite a bit of usage left in this palette, but I feel like that makes sense because it is such a big palette. It is 20 shades. 5 times 20 is 100 uses just to complete the usage goal, and then 5 pans on top of that is even more. So, you know, I'm going to get a lot of use out of this palette this year, but I'm really excited about that. I do really love this palette, so I'm glad I'm showing it some love. I do again think I'm going to have this out next month, but I'm not going to roll anything else in because, of course, I still have quite a lot left to do with this palette. But if I do complete this level before next update, so before like beginning of October, I will pre-film that video so I can roll something else in at that point and then just post it when it's supposed to go up. But that is going to be it for my update today. If you're doing product level up, let me know how you're doing. If you do post it on YouTube, I will have a collaboratory playlist linked down below, by the way, with everyone else is doing this project. So you should be in there. But if you do it on YouTube and you're not in that playlist, let me know and I can add you in there. And as always, if you did like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I always love seeing you guys comment too. So if you have any comments, any feedback, anything like that, please let me know. I'm excited, by the way, because once we're done with this one, we're going to roll back down to number 1 and it's going to be way easier to handle than level 5. But, you know, I'm happy that this one was rolled in for level 5 because I think it's a good palette for that level. I hope you guys are having an amazing day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye, guys.